Cheapo.
Yeah.
I go El Cheapo with everything. So.
Okay, so I am with George and Sarah, and we are in front of the plaza across from the mall where the McDonald's is, and basically they agreed to talk to me about kind of breaking down the stereotypes that they might that we as, and I'm sorry, what is the proper like non-offensive word or politically correct, handicapped or disabled or
I always say
He
crippled.
goes with crippled, but I don't like that name. Or if you look up crippled in the dictionary, a cripple is something that holds up a wall.
okay.
And I'm not a cripple. I don't hold up walls.
Okay.
I go with disabled or otherwise abled.
Abled.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise abled.
Now, let me ask you this too, because I'm standing in front of you and you're both sitting. Obviously, if I'm approaching you to talk to you, the appropriate thing to kneel down to get to eye level with you is that, or is that?
Well, with each person it's different. Like I don't bother me either way. But I've
Okay.
seen some people that want people down to level. And I've seen other people that offends them.
So it's really an individual.
Yeah, it's an individual thing. For me, it doesn't matter if you're taking pictures with me. I prefer that you're at my height, at
Okay.
my level. But if you're just talking to me or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Okay, great. So I just kind of want to get an idea of what your disabilities are. You're both in wheelchairs, and George, I see that you don't have legs. Or do,
Where'd they go? Where'd they go?
Are they on break? I'm sorry.
They're on strike.
Okay, I don't want to push the boundaries of humor here because I don't know where the line is, honestly.
With
So.
There ain't no line.
And there isn't any line.
Okay, that's cool.
He jokes around all the time.
Cool. So.
I was in a car wreck and lost my legs in a car wreck.
Okay.
And she was born with cerebral palsy.
Okay.
I was born 9 weeks premature.
Okay.
I'm a twin, and I had 6 strokes.
6 strokes as an infant?
And so by the time I was 24 hours old, I had 6 strokes, and I wasn't breathing on my own. I was hooked up to heart and lung machines because my heart wasn't pumping on its own and I was not breathing on my own. And they had told my mom and my dad, basically, baptize me, name me, tell me you love me, and say goodbye.
Oh my gosh.
And they said my life expectancy was not through the night. And here I am, 26
You're 26 years old? Okay.
So
Yeah.
they were a little off.
Yeah, I would say.
They said that if I lived, I was going to be a vegetable on life support who would be able to do nothing but blink her eyes.
Okay.
So
now, what about your twin? Did your twin?
He has CP2.
Okay.
Not to the effect that I do. He can walk. His affects balance, coordination. So if you were to ask him to like stand on one foot or, like all the tests that they do for DUI, this is like an example.
Right,
like all the tests that they do roadside for DUI, where they have you like heel toe and all that stuff. He can't do that.
Okay.
He failed a field sobriety test when he wasn't drunk because of his CP.
Yeah, he was 100% sober. They pulled him over and he had a tail light out or something, and then they thought he was drinking, so they pulled him over and had him do all of the sobriety tests, and because of his CP, he failed them.
Oh, wow. So was he arrested in the whole deal? Like, wow.
And he kept saying, I can't do that, my CP won't let me do that, and he failed every single one of them.
Wow.
So we ended up having to, he is now still fighting charges.
Oh my gosh.
Because of these, because the police don't realize that he is not just pulling the CP title out of his head, that he has had this diagnosis his whole life. And when he was younger, he couldn't walk across a room and chew bubble gum at the same time.
Okay.
And he would trip over nothing. So he's gotten much better with physical therapy and occupational therapy, and so if you were to look at him, he looks like a normal person.
Okay.
He walks like a normal person, talks like a normal person. But if you ask him to stand on one foot, he'll fall over.
Okay.
So
There's some balance issues.
there's definitely balance issues. He has dyslexia. He has dysgraphia, where he'll flip numbers. And
Okay.
He and I both have learning disabilities, ADHD, stuff like that.
Okay. Now, as far as your CP goes, Sarah, and I don't mean to sound totally ignorant here, but will your condition improve, or is this?
It improves with like the different therapies that they have. It's improved greatly from what it was.
Okay.
And we're getting me back into therapy, and there's several different types of there's different types of physical therapy, and they're starting me back on water therapy, and that's actually one of the best ones, because in water you can do much more than you can do on land.
Right.
Because there's not the gravity to pull you.
And with CP, they found out that now you could, if you're I think it's like 4 years old or under, they can put you in a hyperbaric chamber.
Okay.
And that could reverse the effects of CP.
Oh, really?
What CP is dying cells, dying brain cells, while you're an infant. And if they can find out soon enough, if they put you in a hyperbaric chamber, that wakes up the dying cells before they die.
Right.
And then if they catch it, you either you have no effects or you have lessened effects.
Okay.
So, but they're just learning now about it.
Right.
In 1985, 86, around that time, they had no idea.
Right.
So, and like I said, I wasn't supposed to make it 24 hours, and if I made it, I was supposed to be completely nothing. So, and everything that they said I wasn't supposed to do through God, I have done. He's let me have, my life is a miracle.
Yeah.
I sit, I eat, I've walked in walkers and with crutches, and I'm married, and
She wasn't able to tie her shoes, and then I helped teach her how to tie her shoe. She can't bend over to her shoe to tie it,
right.
But she wasn't able to actually do the tying.
Right.
And then I taught her how to sign her name, but when I taught her how to sign her name, we weren't married, so I taught her to do her maiden name, not even thinking we're getting married the next month.
Oh,
and I should have taught her to sign her married name.
Yeah. So you had to double the efforts when...
The school system had given up on trying to teach her how to write in cursive. And I guess
really?
they're now kicking out cursive altogether, because
they are.
People do writing, so it's going to be a lost art pretty soon. But I was just showing her that how similar that, like, the P in cursive is real close to the P in printing,
right?
And the N, and showing her how similar they are. They're just connected by a little tail that connects all the letters.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden it was real easy for her to learn to do cursive.
Okay. Now, George, how old were you when you had your accident?
I just turned 18 like 2 or 3 months earlier.
Oh, wow. Okay. And what were the circumstances of the accident? Were you the driver? Were you a passenger?
I was driving one of those old Army Jeeps like on MASH.
Yeah.
And I'm from Alaska, I was born and raised there.
Okay.
And I was driving on an old dirt road, and then I was pulling over to go pee, and the side of the road gave out. And those rear tires are independent rear suspension.
Yeah.
So I swung underneath like that, then catapulted the Jeep over. And I was pinned underneath the Jeep for 10 hours.
Oh, my word.
And didn't break no bones, no bruises, no cuts, scratches. It was just on me hard enough to cut off circulation.
Okay.
And then it took another 10 hours to get me from the hospital, or from the accident site to the hospital, because there was a mix-up with the medevac helicopter. It was supposed to come to the crash site, but it went to the airport in the village where I was from.
Okay.
And so then my cousin said he would fly me to Fairbanks. But then we got a hold of the helicopter. Then it had to turn around, came back. Then it didn't have enough gas, so I had to go get refueled at Galena Air Force Base. and then so it took another 10 hours to get me to the hospital,
Oh my
and they
word.
put me in mask pants to keep my blood pressure from dropping. So then so my legs went 20 hours without circulation, and my mom was driving a vehicle from Fairbanks to Seattle, Washington, for my aunt who was going to school there. And my dad was in Phoenix, or between Phoenix and Tucson, so they weren't able to get a hold of nobody to authorize emergency surgery. So then they, had to go. They had to contact my dad's emergency contact to authorize surgery, and by then over 24 hours had passed.
So there was no saving the.
Nope. And then when they took off the mask pants, the potassium level got so big in my legs that I got the equivalent of lethal injection worth of potassium in my
Really?
system, and I had several heart attacks. And it took 20 minutes to get my heart beating on its own. They would do whatever to revive me. It would beat a couple times and it would stop. Then it would beat a couple times and stop. It took 20 minutes to get it beating, so it was working on its own again.
Okay. Was anyone in the vehicle with you,
No, I
or
was by
you?
myself.
Oh, wow. Mm.
And then we flipped again, almost 18 years to the day.
You had another accident. Oh,
Yeah.
18 years to the. Wow.
It was my original accident was August 19th, and then the me and her were together with the accident on September 4th. So it was, 18 years and 2 months later had
Wow.
an accident.
Wow.
Yeah, we rolled down a highway at like 72 miles an hour.
The tire
And
ripped off the rear of the vehicle, and we did the driver. Well, I wasn't driving; she wasn't driving. We were driving in a disability transport vehicle,
Okay.
and the rear tire ripped off, and the driver put on the brake, which caused the van to fishtail,
Okay.
and then we started rolling. We rolled twice down the interstate, and settled in the middle of the interstate, between both lanes,
Uh huh.
right side up, luckily,
Okay.
and then
I
ended up.
broke my leg in 5 places.
Oh wow.
That's why she has this brace on. She's been having leg problems, and that's why her foot is turned that way.
Okay.
Is the weight of the cast. She was in a cast. She has osteo. Most people that are in wheelchairs get osteoporosis,
From
and
not putting weight on the bone.
Oh sure.
So they develop osteo, and I've had osteo since I was 10. And then the weight of my foot, what happened was my feet rests were down at the time, and my foot rest button got pushed, and my footrest went out like that with my foot planted on my footrest. And so it just went and snapped it.
it
Okay.
had a
And
break that was like say this was a knee joint.
Yep.
It had a big break going up like this, one going like this on the side, one going up here in the middle there,
Wow.
and then rest of it looked like a rock through windshield with spider webbing
Oh
cracking.
wow. Wow.
And usually for her, when they do X-rays, they can't find the break until it starts healing, and you
Mhm.
get the white lines in there. With that break, they're able to see the spider webbing, and the break was really obvious.
Okay.
And the way the cast started, she was in a cast from September till March, so the way the cast started turning her foot like this inwards, and she's had to have many surgeries, and
Yeah.
that's like I've had in just 3 months' time when I had my accident, I had over 100 surgeries, and she's had not nearly as many, but since the time of the rollover accident 3 years ago, she's had almost a third of the surgery she's had in her life
Wow.
just in the past 3 years.
Okay. Um, George, with your accident, obviously you had some huge changes in your life. Did people who you considered friends, like close friends and family, how did did they come closer to you? Did they distance themselves from you? Did they, was there a lot of like pity and stuff like that, or
Um,
what changed about your relationships when that
the
happened?
Some of my closest friends I no longer have contact with because they don't, they feel really bad and don't know how to act. And
Okay.
then some of my close relatives too. We are no longer close, but some of them that my closest friends and relatives, we still have a good bond with.
That's good.
And then when I was in grade school, I was a bully. I used to beat up all these people all the time. Let me come over here a little bit.
Yeah, if we want to move out of that.
The I used to some of the people that I used to was the cruelest to
Yep.
in school. Like this one, his name was Martin, and when I was in the hospital, he was coming up and visiting me every day.
Really.
And he was probably one of the cruelest people I was to in grade school. Yeah, I used to make him buy me, like if I wanted extra chocolate milk, I'd make him buy me extra chocolate milk. If I wanted something from the store, I'd make him go to the store and buy me like a Slurpee
Yep.
or something. And he was up there every day and visiting me,
Wow.
and which I thought was really surprised me because the person who I was the meanest to in life was there when I needed somebody, and the closest of my friends was didn't come up and see me. My best friend from grade school all the way up, he didn't me and him no longer talk. He didn't want anything to do with me after I got hurt.
Okay.
But the person who I was meanest to end up we end up becoming really close after my accident.
Okay. Wow. So, and he didn't come to you to rub it in your face and
Nope.
say like, "This is what you get for all those years of bullying me." And
Nope.
wow.
And
He.
we were growing up. We were into Dungeons and Dragons like most little kids.
Yep.
And he was into painting those little figurines, and he'd bring me up like a dragon figurine or a wizard figurine,
Yeah.
and like the little cleric and the the little trolls, and he used to paint them and bring them up to me all the time.
Right. So, um, I want to take this conversation kind of into the supernatural because I mentioned that this is a Christian blog that this will be going on, and you both mentioned that you're Christians. Were you a Christian at the time of the accident?
I was raised in a Catholic church,
Okay.
and then I drifted away a little bit because I didn't have enough proof that there was God, but I didn't have no proof that there wasn't. And I was the type of person that like the sky is blue, the clouds are white, the road
You
is
know,
black,
concrete, black
yeah.
and white.
And then when I was in the hospital, I was going through so much, and then I finally, I kept dying, and they kept bringing me back, and I finally said, you know what, I'm done. Just give me a DNR. And then I said I'm gonna go visit. My grandma had died a few months earlier. She died in June. My accident was August, and so I said I'm gonna go visit grandma now. And I quit breathing, and my heart quit. They're taking off the leads, and all of a sudden it was just like on a movie where I go like that. My chest inflated. I gasped like that, and my back arched like that. And my heart started beating. I started breathing again, and I
Wow.
said I'm back, and she's fine. I don't remember this was the story that my uncle had told me, but I had done that, and then my heart started beating again. I started breathing, and I figured, obviously I had to go somewhere. I don't know where I went, but obviously I had to go somewhere, and then I had to come back from where I went. The doctors had given up on me, said they were just keeping me doped up on pain medication, so I wasn't in
Right.
pain. And then I went from not going to live, definitely was going to die,
Yeah.
to being able to live. So then I was thinking, what, there must be a higher power. Something must have had to save my life. And then I had a big surgery where they took out my back muscle from between my shoulder blades all the way down and
Wow.
wrapped around this way. It's called the iliopsoas.
Okay.
And they had taken out my iliopsoas because it was poisoning my body. It was infected. It was dying.
Okay.
And so they said I'd never be able to move, sit up again without being tied to a chair, and I'm able to sit up in physical therapy. They tried pushing me over to see what my balance was.
Uh-huh.
My balance was really good. They said I'd never have use of my arms. They said I'd never be able to drive again, and my eyes are good enough to get a driver's license. They said I would never be able to talk again,
Okay.
and I went totally blind. My kidneys shut down, and I got a scar here on my neck because I was on dialysis for a while.
Okay.
They put a dialysis catheter in my neck,
Okay.
and then my kidneys started working again. They said, basically like her, they said I was going to be a vegetable if I survived.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, I started making all this progress. And when just coming back from the dead on my own without the medical intervention, that, tilted me a little bit, but not quite, enough. And there was some, I guess I could call them false Christians, that came up and said the reason I had my accident is God was punishing me. And the God that in Catholic churches they try to spook you into into believing, but I've never heard of God punishing even in the Catholic churches. They weren't saying God is punishing you when bad things happen.
Okay.
And so so that swayed me a little bit more away from God when I first had my accident. But then when I started making all this progress, and got used to my arms, I out bench pressed my male physical therapist, who had pretty good muscles.
Yeah, I would
And
imagine.
so then I started thinking, well, the doctors had given up on me, and I made it. They said everything they said I wouldn't be able to do. I even went and walked with prosthetics, which the doctor said I'd never be able to do. And so everything that the doctor said I can't do, I've done. And so then I thought, okay, well, if the doctors had given up hope on me, and I'm able to make it, there must be a some higher power
Right.
that's brought me through it.
Okay. Now, can I make a wild guess?
Okay.
Can I guess that the kid that you bullied who was bringing you stuff is? Can I guess that he was a Christian?
I have no idea
You don't know?
what his faith is, but
Okay,
he
that was Christ-like
yeah
behavior when I hear
he
Yeah.
that story.
but Michael Landon did all the Highway to Heaven, Little House on Prairie, and he was an atheist. So
Yeah.
just doing good deeds,
Yeah, absolutely.
and then I was watching on the news that a church burned down, and an atheist helped raise money for the church.
Right.
And like in when the things were going on in Egypt, Muslims were helping Christians, Christians were helping Muslims.
Yeah.
Even though that they pray to the same God, there's a lot of conflict between Christians and Muslims, and
Right.
they can even help out. So,
Okay.
but he was Mexican, not stereotype Mexicans. Mexicans are in general are Christians, and so you have met more Christian Mexicans than I did atheist or non-Christian Mexicans.
Okay.
And so when I was in his house, he had crosses on his wall, so it appeared like he was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming he was Christian, but
Okay.
out of all the time growing up, after I was from like when I started grade school on, when I quit living with my grandma, I quit going to church, and me and him would play on Sundays. So I don't know what his extent of Christianity was,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he appeared to be. I would think he was, but don't know for sure.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys sharing your story with me.
The
Now,
funny thing is,
yeah.
he wouldn't have even married me. When he was a kid, he would have bullied me. If he would have met me, he outright admits he would have
Yeah,
bullied me and
I used to
bullied
bully
me and
everybody that
bullied
was
me.
that was different. There's this girl with cancer, and this was before when I was in grade school. I didn't know what cancer truly was, and she was bald, and I used to bully her. We used to like a lot of kids, anybody that was
Yeah.
different, we would bully, and then at times I feel like, you know, that God brought me to her to teach me because then when I hear stories that she went through,
Uh-huh.
it makes me feel like how could I have been that mean to people? So it
Uh-huh.
changed my whole outlook. Just when God brought me to her,
Yep.
it changed my whole outlook
Right.
on disabled people.
Yeah. So how did you two meet? What is your story?
I was in an internet chat room,
Okay.
Yeah, we met
and
on Yahoo. We tried to go through eHarmony, and they told us that they couldn't find us anybody that matched either one of us, even though we went on about the same time.
Okay.
and there was a girl that I liked, and I was using her to try to make this other girl jealous. And then after I started talking to her in private messenger, then I started liking her. And so then I was in Washington on my way back to Alaska, and I was visiting my family. And then I thought, you know what? Instead of going north to Alaska, I'm going to go east and come here from Washington. And then I came down here in March of '06. Then haven't left yet.
Well,
We got married the the next year in June of '07,
congratulations.
and we've been married. Had our battles. Some of the disabilities makes it harder on us for being a married couple than.
Sure.
But it has made some things easier. But like our Social Security went down when we got married because even though it took both of our incomes to pay all of our bills,
Right.
the government figured two incomes, you don't
In
need as
one
much.
household. Sure.
You don't need as much, which then we end up getting evicted out of our apartment because we didn't have enough money to pay for our bills.
Okay.
And so there has been a lot of
There's been
problems.
There's been major strifes since we got married.
Okay.
But either way, they were going to dock us because even if you have, like, if I would have stayed just as his girlfriend,
Yeah.
living girlfriend, they would have docked us.
Really?
So, yeah.
Hmm.
So the government doesn't seem to think that disabled people are
Should be
allowed
married.
to have love interests or get married.
That's
or,
something.
Yeah.
And then our pastor at our church, he didn't want to marry us because we were living together, but it took both of our incomes to be able to pay all of our bills. So then then after talking to him, he decided that he will go ahead and make an exception for us because he realized that I can't make it on my own and she can't make it on her own.
Right.
And even if she was able to make it financially on her own,
Yep.
she needs other help to like cook
Yep.
and get in her chair and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I'm 100% independent, and so so he went ahead and made the exception for us, and then we ended up getting married like 14 months or 15 months after I got down here,
Okay.
and it's been a pretty good relationship overall.
Yeah.
That's great. I want to ask you guys some questions because you made an interesting statement when I was asking you about the kid that you bullied and came to your aid when you were going through everything. You'd made the statement that good people doesn't necessarily equal being a Christian. So I'm a Christian. I'm a born again Christian, and what I would like to do is share
And
the
then there's
gospel.
false Christians,
Absolutely.
like my father.
We have some of those in our family also.
Oh
So
God, my father is a 100% false Christian to the core. He on his Facebook says he's Christian, Christian, Christian. There is Bible
And he
verses,
denies
Bible
her
verses,
existence.
and he denies me as his daughter.
wow.
He will say that he has 2 daughters and 1 son, but he has 3 daughters and 2 sons.
Wow.
So, and yet on his Facebook it says he's a good Christian. He did this. It'll say,
Yeah.
it talks about how he went on a missionary trip to Kenya and how he did this and this and this. Well, if you're a true Christian, you do not deny your children. So therefore,
Absolutely.
he is a false Christian.
And you don't go bragging about the things you've done.
And yeah, you don't need to brag about him because God already knows.
Yeah. Yeah. When did you guys become Christians? For you, I know it was after the accident, right?
Yeah.
Or you were raised Catholic and you fell away from it and then you came back to it. What about you, Sarah? How did you come to faith?
I had a feeling when I was younger that there was something out there, and because this sounds very weird, but I've always told everybody that there was something in my incubator holding me. And at this time, I believe it's God. But when I was younger and I was explaining it, I didn't know what it was. I just said somebody was holding me.
Mm-hmm.
Because when people couldn't hold me, when even the nurses couldn't hold me, I felt arms around me. And so I've been pretty much Christian since I was 9 years old.
Okay.
And I was raised in the Lutheran church, and then I decided that that wasn't the faith for me. And then I was rebaptized through the Assembly of God
Okay.
in March of 05, I think.
Okay.
But I've been Christian since I was 9.
Okay.
I've been going there since I was 9. So.
Do you mind if I ask you some questions? Because as a Christian, my concern is for all people. The Bible says we shouldn't want for anybody to go to hell. So what I would like to do is ask you guys some questions and see if you're soundly saved. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yep.
So this isn't meant to be, right now I'm assuming we're Christians talking as Christians to one another. So have the two of you been born again?
Yep.
Okay. Because the Bible says we know that a man cannot enter the king, or a woman cannot enter the kingdom of heaven unless he's born again. What would you, if someone came to you and said, Sarah, I don't know if I'm saved, how do I get to heaven? What would you say is the gospel according to if I came to you and said, Sarah, how do I get into heaven? What would you say to me?
Well, I don't know.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I mean, I would say open up your heart to God and tell Him that you want to be saved, that you want all of His glory, that you understand that He died for you, and that you want to enter into His glory.
All right, so you're using God and Jesus interchangeably? You
Yeah.
said He died for you, and of course we know Jesus was the God-man, and He died for our sins.
Yeah.
See, I was raised that Jesus is God in human form.
Yes.
And so I interchange God and Jesus, depending on what's being said, because I was taught that Jesus is God, and God is Jesus, and part of the Trinity. They're all the God, Jesus, and the Holy Ghost is all the
Right.
one and the same.
Yep, the Trinitarian theology.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I also I don't know anything about Assemblies of God
Yeah.
Church either. So when you say when you say Lutheran, that's I also left a Lutheran church, so I can relate to
I
that.
really don't like the way that they run,
Yeah.
and I don't like their beliefs.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
So
baptized
I
as
don't.
Southern Baptist in Missouri,
Okay.
and so I try to get her to come to the Southern Baptist churches, and she tries to get me to go to the Assembly of God churches, but like on Proverbs 21:9 and 19, it's better to live out in the desert or in the roof than be with the angry woman. So she wins on that one.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm going to cut off the tape here. I just want to, on tape, thank you, and we'll continue our conversation. Thank you for talking to me.
Welcome.